say, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, but we don't talk about the, what is the relationship that we're looking for? Here's what I'm looking for. These are the people that I want to come back. All right. So go with me, guys. I think we can learn a ton by looking at dating profiles. Because ultimately, that's what we're trying to do here, right? Okay. So let me put up some examples here. Here's just some little headlines. World traveler looking for a lady who likes to explore. Or bookworm looking to write the next chapter. You can see as you read through these how this is in a very short sentence, this is who I am, and this is what I need in a partner. So I want you to imagine for a minute that your business, your brand, was on a dating profile and writing a headline. So what are you and what are you looking for? Now you may, I'm gonna literally give us about 5 minutes to just sort of jot out some ideas. I'm not necessarily suggesting that the perfect sentence is going to pop right out. Remember, what I'm showing you is the end, not the crappy first draft, right? So maybe you just even start with like bullet points of how would I describe myself as the thing. Like if my business, if I had to describe it as a bookworm, a movie lover, a man who loves the outdoors, that kind of stuff. What kind of words or language could I use for that around my brand? And then how do I describe what I'm inviting people to come do when we partner together? Any questions? Everybody ready to write? I'm going to do it right along with you. And as soon as I find my pen, and let's see what happens. So I'm going to say like four minutes. So not a lot of, low pressure, just start getting some ideas out there. If anybody has a question, then unmute, drop it in the chat, let me know, kind of thing. We ready? I feel like we should develop a catchphrase or something where I'm like, ready, set, right. I don't know, that's probably not it. All right, go. All right, where are we at? Anybody want to share? I don't have a full, I sure don't have a full sentence. I have a couple of ideas and things here. We are a small enough group too. Kimber, you have two really bad ones. You want to come off mute and tell us? Because sometimes bad ones shared turn into good ideas from other people.
Yeah, sure. So I don't really know where these came from, but I have spirit junkie looking for a soul traveling companion through this human experience, and recovering spirit junkie who can traverse this human experience.
As you're looking for recovering, or you are the recovering?
I am recovering.
You are the recovering. Yeah.
That one doesn't have a looking for in it.
That's okay. I didn't have a lot in some of mine either. Anybody else? So I only got as far as things like sort of making a list of things people have called me, or what I know I'm strong in my brand, like word girl. Then I was like curious word girl, storyteller. So like storyteller needs a story to tell. So I'm looking for people who need to have their story told. Seeking an interesting, but I don't think blocked is the word I'm looking for, because for some reason when I went to like a word blocked brand, then my brain went to like, I can help relieve the pressure, and it became weird from there. if I'm honest. Give me some feedback at least. Like, is this sort of an interesting way to kind of think about your brand and your business and what you're doing? Is it?
Beth, I pulled up some of my words from the workshop.
Your word
and I pulled up the words from my magician PDF. So I haven't quite figured out how to like describe myself yet, but looking for a visionary desiring to rein in your procrastination habits.
Yeah. So Sarah's invented this really cool word called procrastination habits. We all got them, and she nailed me on the first try. Yeah. Right? Okay.
I'll share one.
Yeah.
So I said an exciting exploration destination looking for curious kiddos or tired mothers and fathers.
Yeah. So I don't know if everybody's had a chance to read through the chat, but Megan,
mine sounded weird compared to everybody else's.
No. So Megan's the marketing director for a botanical garden, and so I love that idea though of personifying the garden as a suitor, so to speak, for certain types of
that was tricky.
people. Yeah. No, I think that's fun though. Yeah. And if during this process, guys, if you have feedback for each other, or if you have thoughts, then feel free to hop off mute and share that too. Like, let's imagine we're all in the same room somewhere and we just share.
I'll share mine. Have the second half needs like a lot of work, but I'll
Yeah,
go ahead.
we spent 4 minutes on it. So it wasn't.
So what I have is disruptive, intuitive, and passionate rebel coach, consultant, and healer looking for a spiritual, curious, and unapologetic woman entrepreneur who loves life and money.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? I just think that and I think yeah, you've all been in other classes with me, so if I've said this before, but I think in general, the number one thing that I tell people about messaging is relax. Relax, right? Like social media, it says social in the title. This is meant to be conversational. And yet we still have that like high school English teacher that taught us to write a business memo in the back of our minds, like saying, oh, but now we're talking about business. So you have to, okay, we have to sit up a little bit straighter. We have to pull out our big words now, and we have to get formal. And we end up saying nothing, right? I mean, how it, and so even the formulas, I mean, what we're kind of working on here could be used as a brand statement, as a bio, as a little intro piece, just your Facebook bio type of thing. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but yeah, so that's part of the having the word bank there too. I'm glad that you guys are enjoying that. I almost always have a tab open in my screen with that in there. If you haven't gone through the word bank training yet, if you missed that, all of that is in the membership portal. You can go back and watch that training or review it as well, or connect with one of the other folks. So yeah, right, an English literature major, it's like we just want to go back and say the only people who talk this way are other academics. Like none of us, the only reason that we would have needed to speak this kind of English or write, papers with the citations and all that kind of stuff, the only time we're ever going to need to do that is if we go into academics and try to teach other people that. When I started journalism school, I was still having to take like English literature type of stuff in college at the same time. My English teachers hated me because my journalism instructors were telling me, make it shorter, make it snappier. Yes, one word with a period can be a whole sentence. And my English teachers were like, stop it. That's not how we talk. I'm like, it's exactly how we talk. It's not how you want us to read. And that's it's not how you want us to write. And that's probably the number one issue that most people, when they say, I'm not a good writer, or I don't know how to write about it, it's because we internalize this formality of it instead of just doing it the way that we would talk to people, right? So when we just sort of get crazy and back all the way up to like, okay, I'm just going to write a dating profile for my business, then that kind of stuff comes out. But that's how people identify with it too, right? Like it's easier for me as a potential customer to say, oh yeah, that's me. That's something that I identify with. I want to know more about it. Right? Yeah. So anybody else have a thought or a Jedi mind? Is Jedi mind warrior a thing? Hell yes, it's a thing. It can be anything you want. Was metaphor riddled messaging coach a thing before that's what I said I was? I don't know, but I'm claiming it anyway. I have a oh, where is it? I wrote it down. Somebody said it to me one day. I did not put it on my sticky note. If it was on a sticky note, I would know exactly where it was. Clients told me, oh, she gave me the title, what somebody called herself. I've got a friend who calls herself the copy curator instead of a copy writer. I have a client who named herself a exit strategy Sherpa because she's the guide of taking people up that mountain type of thing, right? Yeah. Here it is. One of my clients told me about someone she knew who called herself the Chief Chaos Eradicator. Right? Isn't that fun? The Chief Chaos Eradicator. So we tend to add all these words like, oh, well, I'm a blah, 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 the blah, 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 blahs. Right? Like I did a post where I wrote out all this meaningless language about businesses who were going to oh, I can't even think of the words anymore because I blocked them because they were like industry, like accelerate and diversify and all that kind of stuff. But it was like, that says nothing. And a friend of mine wrote me, she meant, she made a comment on it. She's like, oh, that is awful. And I was like, I think I died a little inside actually writing that. And yet that's like, when we put on our, ooh, I'm going to be businessy now, we just start making up all these words that don't mean anything. But, you know, if you say Jedi mind warrior, I'm like, ooh, that sounds like an interesting person. Or it might, some people go, well, that sounds like a wacko. And those aren't your people. Those aren't your people, right? The more generic we are and how we describe ourselves, the more likely we are to catch the fish that we don't want. The more specific that we are, the more likely we are to be able to attract the people that we most want. Because what happens when we work with people that aren't a perfect fit? One, it's exhausting, right? Totally exhausting, draining. Exactly, Kimber. It's just like, oh, they could have paid me 5 times this amount and it still would not have been worth it for me to do this. But they're not satisfied, right? Part of the reason it's draining is because they're not fully satisfied, because they're not getting what they expected, because it wasn't clear from the beginning. So they either, you know, at worst, they leave a bad review, but at a minimum, you're not going to get a great if from them. They're not going to refer you to everybody they know, right? Megan, like if you got too generic about what people could see at the garden and they got there and they were like, oh, I thought this was a water park. You know, if you just said a great place for kids to enjoy themselves and they come in expecting bounce houses and water parks and all that kind of stuff, then you get bad reviews, right? And it's not because what you have isn't great. It's because you invited the wrong people to come into your space. And when we're clear about what happens in our space, and that means saying exactly who we are, exactly what they're going to expect when they get there, and what they can do, how it's going to help them, all those questions we talked about, the who it's for, who it's not, how I do it. If you don't like my process, if you don't like, wood-fired pizza, don't go to the wood-fired pizza restaurant. But don't put up a pizza sign and not tell people that it's wood-fired. Does that make sense? Yeah. So even just basic things like this of this is who I am, and this is what I'm looking for in a relationship, right? But ultimately we have to remember that selling is about a relationship. We say that all the time. We're like, oh, business is about building relationships, but we don't treat it like we're building a relationship. So if we really look at it through this lens of the metaphor, that at some point, it's okay for us to, our messaging is the way for us to say this isn't going to work out before people get too close. Right? Because at the moment somebody proposes, it gets really awkward to say no. So give them reasons to be able to get out, and know that when you get to that moment of, hey, let's work together, it has a really good chance of working out. Yeah. Cool. I want to show you a couple of longer profiles here just as inspiration. I'm going to give us a few more minutes just to kind of take some notes, some thoughts from this. So here's a little bit longer profile. So kind of, let me just read these two. So isn't online dating a blast? Okay, maybe it's challenging at times, but it's still exciting that you have a chance to meet someone special you might never have met elsewhere. So something like that, right? Like, isn't being, Kimber, I'm thinking of you specifically, isn't being stuck in your head a blast? Isn't doing the same thing over and over every day just the most fun? Isn't feeling stuck, okay, yeah, it's not, right? You can have some fun with that. So now here's sort of our formula. Now, one of the things that you will find from me is that I'm going to give you a ton of tips, tools, techniques, ideas, formulas, so to speak, but I'm not you have to do it this way, like this is the magic way to do it. These are inspiration points for you then to add your own personality and brand to them. But there are some things out there that work. Okay, here's who I am. My name is Amy. I'm a proud dog mom and avid gym goer. And if you ask my friends, a bit quirky at times. So here's who I am, right? If you hate dogs, okay, that's tap out now. Cool, not a problem. If you don't like people who like staying fit, tap out now, not a problem. And here's a little bit about my friends. Here's what I'm looking for, okay? Here's who I am. Here's a little bit about me. And here's what I'm looking for. And here's how we take the next step. Here's another one who's Ted. This one I like because he's like, I'm not the best at describing myself. So I asked a few friends to tell me what I'm like so I could share that with you. Here's what they had to say. Here's what Ted said. What's the business equivalent of this for us? Our reviews and testimonials, right? I may not be the best at describing myself. So let me tell you what a few of my clients have had to say. And then if you want to see if those clients were right, or if they're just telling me what I want to hear, we should chat. Right? Again, who I am. Now this part doesn't have as much of the here's what I'm looking for part, but I like using it as an example of, you know, relying on information that you already have from others to help describe what you say. Do either of these help spark some additional ideas and how you could talk about or describe what you do? Yeah. Okay. So again, the way we put these to work is, I'm a big believer, you know, when I would write an article, I would have a bunch of notes, right? You do several interviews, you have a bunch of data, you have a bunch of information, and then you start to pull different pieces of it, and then it starts to come together. I also think that too often, and any writer that I have ever read, if you read any book on writing, they're going to say, get it all out. Just get it out of you first. My professors would say it like this: you can't write and edit at the same time. You're either, when you sit down in front of your content, you're either a writer or you're an editor. And writing includes all of the brainstorming part. It's like oh yeah, sometimes people call me a word girl. I'm just going to throw that on my page. I don't know what it's there for yet. I'm just getting it out. That's what it means to be a writer when you sit down in front of your content. That also means you make the editor shut up. Right? Like I literally just have a blank line here in one of my spaces. Like, I'm seeking interesting but blank brands. I know I need another word. I'm not going to sit here for 100 years and figure out what that word is. I'm just going to leave it blank. I'm going to move on. It might come back to me. It's going to come back to me later. So a lot of what we're going to do together is the writing part of it. But then I also want to share with you ideas of, okay, now what do I do with all this pile of information instead of just having a pile of information? Because at the end of the day, we still have to write social media posts. We still have to write our emails. We still have to do our video scripts. We have to revise our websites. We have to actually do the content, right? Yeah. So I think if you go back to this idea of this, what do I have to offer? Okay. Who am I? What do I bring to this relationship? As you sketch some of those things out, so I had things like, I bring my curiosity. I bring my experience as a storyteller. I'm, you know, bringing my just innate interest in human beings to what we have going on. And as you jot those things down, those can become jumping off points for a post, right? So if I say, okay, I'm bringing my experience as a, you know, as a journalist, okay, what do I really mean? This isn't now create a post that just lists all my accolades. It's like, okay, let me stop in and think, what am I really good at in this? And why is this like, what is this a gift, right? I love this phrase of thinking about, what do I have to offer to this relationship? What do I have? What am I bringing to this? What gifts do I give my customers? And if you start thinking through it in those terms, you'll end up with a list of things. And I think you'll have some content ideas out of that. You literally could do a post. I'm probably going to do a post later today that says, hey, if my business were writing a dating profile, this is what it might say, right? Like you could literally just like go all the way to the extreme. If this feels like you, again, always in your personality, in your brand style, if this feels right for you. But I think for a lot of different kinds of businesses, definitely all of you that I know personally that are on this call, this could be sort of a fun content idea, right? And then remember this idea of, this is what my friends say about me. So another content idea is to ask your people, if my brand, if my business were writing a dating profile, what would you say are my best attributes? Or something along those lines, right? You also have a lot of opportunity to talk about the things you don't want to be, right? The people you're not seeking. Go ahead and do a post that says, hey, by the way, if you don't like people who talk about human design, I'm not your girl. Right? You know, warning, or it's okay to tap out now, or I just want to be clear with you. Like there's all these different types of messaging that you can do based around this idea of, what do I have to offer? What am I looking for in return? The idea that I'm truly here to build a relationship. You know, even something like a garden can build a relationship with the people who come, right? Even inanimate objects we become attached to, for sure. Yeah. So I hope that you've also jotted down a few ideas here of things that you can do. If you land on a statement that you really love, like one of these, nothing that says that you couldn't pop that in as your bio in your social media, or test drive it for a little while, right? Like when you get those random messages that pop up in your DMs, just reply back with, well, you know, I'm a fun and adventuring, you know, that one's not that great. An art-loving woman that's looking to paint a picture of life together with these people. Do you think we might be a good match? What do you have to lose? Like, test drive some of these different things, put them out there, have some fun with it.